Which country is the very best in Minecraft? You see, if you type in a word to the Minecraft seed generator and then someone else types in the same one, you will get the exact same world, and a lot of people like to imagine that you can type in words that will affect the end result, and although this can be true, it's largely a coincidence because this will be turned into a series of numbers that eventually Minecraft uses like any other. This means that typing in your country to the seed field and expecting it to look like your country is as effective as the nitwit, but ultimately it is still worth doing to see which country does have the best Minecraft seed, the most prestigious title that anyone can have. So let's get started right away with our methodology, because we are going to be taking 16 countries, the top 16 of the ones in the world by viewership of the IBX Toycat channel, of course, and we'll put them into this ranking system with the European countries on one side and the non-European countries on the other side, and we're going to be seeing as they slowly go through each of the ranks which of the seeds is best overall via a series of single elimination brackets. This is going to be a lot of fun, and so let's get started with the first one. Our first seed of the day is going to be France with a capital F. Interestingly, you can see they have a massively lower average view duration than all of the other European competitors, so why do the French people hate IBX Toycat? I don't know, but what I do know is I was expecting something that looked like this, and so I was pleasantly surprised when I saw a spawn that actually was very usable. You spawn in this forest with quite a view around you, but you also get a meadow, a jungle, and a savanna not that far away, and honestly, the ability to have so many different types of trees, oak, birch, spruce, dark oak, a little bit of jungle, a little bit of savanna, you get everything you could possibly want. However, the downside is that your closest structure resembles very much my experience of France. The locals are a little unfriendly to outsiders, especially those who speak my mother tongue. But, you know, I'm sure if you just speak their language to them, they'll be great. This guy looks friendly as heck. As for why you'd put up with such rowdy locals, well, the answer is there's some beautiful caves. Right near the spawn is this one. I love a cave that gets you right down to the lair you need to be at if you're looking for diamonds, and this is a classic example of one of those. Yeah, look at that. No breaking of blocks required. 2 diamond ore. Love to see it. Also, as much lava as you're ever realistically going to need. You don't need to start a lava farm if you live here. Otherwise, though, the second closest structure to spawn is a ruin portal that is super far away. Except, actually, I'm kidding, right here you can see, if you look very closely, that there is in fact some more archaeology. So, what is France good at? Having a decent number of different biomes, but not good at all for structures, ultimately having 2 of the least desirable ones, a archaeology site and a pillager outpost. But if you like something a bit weird and you want to have some difference in biomes, then I guess France is, you know, like a solid 4 out of 10. Also, the seed's fine, I guess. Ireland, meanwhile, has a land that is covered in green. Okay, that totally checks out. But also has some interesting biomes right by spawn, with this swamp being absolutely the size you want. Oh, actually, oh no, it goes diagonally and then expands over there and then becomes far too big. Okay, it's got a giant swamp, not a very big pro, but it does have a very big mountain. I would know. I once climbed an Irish mountain and had to call for some serious help. And so it's lovely to be reminded of that with a beautiful seed here that has, as you can see, some tiger trees on the left and a savanna tree on the right. This is actually beautiful and incredible, and I really love the views you can get from up here. But I don't like how much of the spawn area is ocean. That feels like wasted space unless you really want buried treasure and you want to look around for some of the other stuff. I don't see it very easily. And also, there is not a village or useful structure of any form in sight. Somehow, the French seed having, you know, like a single pillager outpost, a ruin portal, and a archaeology site is somehow beating this out by a substantial amount. There is nothing clearly visible to the easy eye, and so as a result, you're stuck with swamp, tiger, little bit of savanna, and okay, there is a jungle tree in 2 here. There's some decent combination of trees and biomes, but it's just worse than the French seed, which is, you know, that's really saying something. So I'm going to have to give this a 3 out of 10, and that means that France wins our first bracket. Our next bracket sees Italy face off against Sweden, which means it's meatballs versus, well, meatballs but Italian this time. This is a really interesting one because although I said France had the lowest watch time, after checking, it was actually Italy that had the lowest, probably something to do with English fluency. But how good is Italy as a Minecraft seed? Well, let's start by saying that I like this jungle spawn with a bamboo forest, but what I really like is that if you turn around, you'll find there is a ruined portal right there. After finding back-to-back questionable structures, I have to say that even if you have no intention of going to the Nether, which this is delightful for helping with, having all of this lava, having the gold, and having the head start of this chest right here, with gold armor inside of it and even some iron, is something that you'll greatly appreciate, even if you just want to go straight for the bamboo, which is just so incredible if you want to get yourself sticks or anything else. There's also food, there's also jungle logs, and even better than that, if we head to the right over here, you'll notice there is this giant jungle edge biome, so you get that beautiful jungle-looking biome without having to deal with the overgrowth of the trees. You can chop some of this down and have a wonderful, almost plains environment, or you could choose to follow this to its edge, where you'd find a forest, which maybe isn't so exciting, but what definitely is over here, we have a desert temple, a desert village, and even better, a desert well. Seriously, after the previous structures of, oh, it's technically you could do archaeology, this is better than a trail ruins because you can do archaeology. If you've never seen that, this little corner over here, you'll find some suspicious sand in, but as well as being able to do archaeology, you can then go to the desert well, which is amazing, because where else are you going to find water in a desert? This place is famously defined as having so little water, so in Minecraft, to find water in a desert is just so rare, and I love that we've got a structure that allows us to do it right here. So, Italy is, so far, the best of the seeds we've encountered on this one. But, oh, there's also a pillager outpost and a mesa. It really is an incredible spawn, and therefore I don't know if this can be beat. But let's see what you've got, Sweden. You made Minecraft, so can you make a good Minecraft seed? By the way, if you... we spawned underwater. By the way, if you do decide you want to check out any of these seeds, obviously, it's very easy to know exactly what the seed is. It's listed right there anyway, though. But also, if you check in the top left, you'll see the coordinates. That will tell you exactly where you can find a piece of terrain. That's for both Bedrock and Java, but crucially, the structures will be different between both. So, while we're talking about the this mountain, this will exist on Java, but what won't exist on Java is, well, actually, you know, apparently it's exactly the same on Bedrock and Java. This is the Sweden Minecraft seed. You spawn underwater next to a giant cave. A dripstone cave too, by the way. What an insane spawn this is. And next, as well as spawning next to this cave, you also spawn next to a mountain, as well as quite close to what looks like a kind of more classic OG iceberg biome. What a wild collection of biomes to just have next to spawn, but I guess that describes Sweden too. Okay, so this seed gets even more incredible because if you go to the top of this giant mountain that looks like it has no purpose, you'll find that it actually fully envelopes a regular plains village, which means you get this, one of the most stunning kind of village views, where it's a village that is surrounded on all sides by cliffs. This also then has a blacksmith to reward you for coming here, and pro tip, blacksmiths are usually the best, but iron leggings, free bread, and some gold. It's only useful if you want to make a Big Mac, where the middle part of the Big Mac is also inedible. But either way, you can say that this is not a very, very good seed in a lot of different ways, but it is pretty delightful that you have a village, and then a ruined portal, and then, if I'm not mistaken, a pillager outpost, and a cherry grove too. You know, actually, those are some pretty redeeming features. And oh, and then it gets even better. There's an ice spikes biome as well. Yeah, I think rather, I think this looked like it was going to be a clear blowout for Italy. But I would say, whereas Italy is pretty solid, it's not the best Minecraft seed ever, but it's above average. This is a Minecraft seed that starts below average, but weird. And then as you get further out, it gets lots of fun benefits you might like. Have you ever seen an ice spikes next to a cherry grove, actually? This is insane! Yeah, I just cannot get over how crazy and wild this terrain actually is. But it's even better than just having multiple of these snowy villages that used to be the rarest when there are only a few types. But as well as having these, you'll also find things like this igloo floating in the side here. And it's not just an igloo, it's an igloo that appears as though it has a basement. Yeah, that's right. This is everything you could want in terms of what a Minecraft seed has within 1,000 blocks of spawn, but it's very much at the edge of that 1,000 blocks. So it's not a perfect seed, but it does mean that Sweden has knocked Italy out of the park. I think for some people, Italy has the preference here, but as we try to objectively measure seed value, on the surface of what you get, I think Sweden clearly has Italy just a little beat here, because the number of things that you can do near spawn, you can do archaeology, a ridiculous amount of ice boating, or head into that giant cave at spawn, or even the one right behind it, and get yourself enough iron to do some serious gloating. Oh yeah, it goes even... Oh, it's one of these super deep caves. Honestly, I like this seed a lot. I am quite impressed with how much they pack into a seed that looks kind of weird. And even better, if you don't like your friends and you want them to spawn underwater and drown, this is the seed that makes that just a little more likely. But, you know, I guess when it comes to Sweden, it really is a country that will naturally try to kill you a little more than other European ones. So I guess that tracks perfectly. Anyway, I think that Sweden wins this bracket with an absolute surprise, because Italy was better than either of the last two, but Sweden certainly beats either of those. Okay. Our next battle is going to be the Battle of the Lands. Poland versus the Netherlands. And which is better? Well, spawning into Poland, you can see you immediately are on the side of a hill, evident by your Y coordinate being 114, but even crazier, you can see another hill which seems even taller, and despite it being incredibly covered in snow, there's a village right over there. I like village spawns, and I kind of like when it's like an option you can go to, because it feels like you're making the decision to go there rather than spawning with a bunch of freebies. And what freebies do you get? Oh, an iron spear and a sword. You get to choose, which right now is very cool. 4 obsidian, a bundle, and half a set of iron armor. Okay, so a little bit OP, I think some people might say, to be given this right off the get-go, but you're going to need that if you want to go to the top of this mountain, because I have a really heavy theory that if we have 1 mountain, 2 mountain, 3 mountains by spawn, that we probably have an ancient city which you'll be able to find right around here. In fact, I would say it's near inevitability, especially when you see giant cracks like this one. Ooh, that's fun. There's just a single dripstone in the middle of the mountain that you spawn on. Literally one. But yeah, if you follow this cave for long enough, which I concede I might be doing in error right now, then eventually you might find this, an ancient city by spawn. Which, you know, very much matches what you expect from Poland. Lovely people, wonderful snowy mountains, and a giant big threat that is right next door, which everyone has to keep their eyes on. So, do you want an ancient city and a village experience at spawn? If so, here's a seed that gives you both of those. And if you want more beauty than that, then this seed does offer a second village, and a third village, and some ruin portals, and a pillager outpost, but it mostly is the collection of mountains. I guess it's one shared mountain. It's the collection of mountains and the threats that lie below them, which really make this seed something special. It is worth mentioning that just like real Poland, there is a giant flat area, which would be perfect for building on, and if you like the idea of having this plain in between some mountains, with some cherry and some beautiful sights, then this would be great for that, and because it's good for building, I think we could upgrade the ranking to a 5, but I wouldn't say it is special and worth seeking out by itself. But is it better and more worth seeking out than the Netherlands? Well, let's find out. So the Netherlands, fun fact, are not named after the Minecraft dimension, but instead after the fact that they are an incredibly low country, one of the lowest in the world, in fact. I think the very lowest, depending on how you measure this. And that is matched by a spawn at Y69, but it is in a bunch of forest. This doesn't match the Netherlands. This should all be farmlands and bike paths, if you ask me. But I'm not finding either of those. Instead, there's a big ravine. There is eventually a village, which does come with a blacksmith. And there's a lot of... Okay, after you get out here, out of the forest, there is some plains with some pumpkins. There is some savanna. And there is a little bit of choice in biome, including a cherry grove. Oh, you even get choices of spear, although not any armor to see right here. Although maybe the second blacksmith makes this better. This is the interesting thing, right? Ultimately, if this structure is all about the loot, if getting 2 swords, an iron spear, and a copper spear is better than getting the armor and obsidian, then this would be a better village spawn than Poland. But so far, I would say, actually, this is kind of like the Polish seed, except everything's a bit further away from me, and you don't have the beautiful terrain points. Instead, you've got an endless forest. No one likes the forest. People like plains because you can build on them. People like in some cases, a little lake because you can build around it, but having a bunch of forests and then plains with nothing else in it makes this seem kind of undesirable to me. Look at this! It's like an old Extreme Hills biome from like Pocket Edition or console with a swamp in the middle. Such a classic biome, but far enough away from spawn and also weird enough that you'd only come here for nostalgia, and so the Netherlands, sadly, is going to be beaten by Poland in this one, I think. So this next bracket brings up a really interesting case of how names for countries work, because although we're going to be talking about Germany, Germans wouldn't actually call their own country that. Instead, it's usually called Deutschland, with their language being called Deutsch, much closer to Dutch than it is to German. But what's interesting is the fact that we call them Germany, and one of the real power plays of the UK is we said they should be called Germany, and broadly speaking in international organizations, it be that way, and so this is the Germany seed, not the Deutschland one. How good is it? Well, I mean, I always think an ocean isn't an ideal start to a spawn. A little bit of ocean can be nice, yes, especially if it goes in one direction, but this is an ocean that seems to surround you, limiting your choices that don't involve a boat. If you head backwards, you'll find your birch forest, kind of rare, goes into a dark forest, you know, kind of nice, into a spruce forest, giving you 3 types of wood, but still nothing that compares to anything else, and if you go forwards across the water, you'll find a jungle. What will you find as far as interesting structures or unique bits of terrain that aren't just, you know, forests that we've seen on every seed so far? Well, nothing. 1 out of 10. I'm sorry, Germany. I'm sure the Deutschland seed is lovely. No, more seriously, I'm going to give it a 1.5 out of 10 because technically, within 600 blocks of spawn, there's a jungle temple, and these are rare enough that I think for some number of players, it's a novelty. That seems impossible to me. I love jungle temples so much. I built one in my Let's Play world, but if you want 7 pieces of rotten flesh, we're going back down to a 1 for that, I'm afraid. But, I mean, maybe if this chest... Okay, there's 3 diamonds in here. The 1.5 rating can be kept. You know, maybe we'll even upgrade it to a 2 out of 10, because who doesn't love getting a free diamond pickaxe for just getting in a boat, going across the ocean, finding a jungle temple, and then realizing you have nothing exciting to build and nowhere exciting to build. But you know, besides that, great seed, Germany. Let's see if you can beat the UK. So here's where some bias should start to emerge, right? Because now we're checking out the seed for the United Kingdom. I would argue I call the country the UK more than I call it the United Kingdom, but we're going to try and use, if not the official name, the kind of what feels like the official name for a country. Because lots of countries like France aren't called France, they're called the Republic of France, but no one calls them the Republic of France, and their Republic credentials are mostly come from the fact that they beheaded their king. Anyway, the important thing here is the fact that this is the United Kingdom, and if we were trying to give Germany a run for what could be the worst Minecraft seed, I think we would weirdly be doing a good job. The only credit we have is that as well as having this big ocean, we do have some plains. We do have this, what is it? Windswept hills. The old Extreme Hills looking thing. And we do have a swamp here. But as far as unique and interesting structures that I can see, there's a... Are there any shipwrecks even? No. Oh, there's a witch hut. Okay, so... in Germany, you can run 500 blocks and you'll find a jungle temple. In the UK, you can go 400 blocks and you'll find a weird woman who will yell at you and throw things at you with a black cat. And what potion is this? Oh, health potions! So again, very valuable loot in a weird direction you wouldn't bother looking. Very much explains UK tourism. But yeah, anyway. Sorry, but a part of being British is just hating the UK, I think. But if I try to be optimistic, because who doesn't love that? Look at this swamp. It's big. And that's nice. Also, look over here, closer to spawn, only a couple 100 blocks away, there's a village. So, I would say that this is incredible, not expected at all. But this is maybe we could go as high as a 3 out of 10 Minecraft spawn. Because look at the quality of this. Oh yeah, kind of nice, isn't it? Look at the cherry grove you get back here. There's some rivers between them you could do something with. Although I think this is more downside than anything else. I think this is a bad Minecraft seed. I think I think I would be tempted to say this is a 2 out of 10. But if I was really to compare it to the last seed, I would say it beats it by a little bit. And so if it beats it by a little bit, but not enough for me to feel comfortable saying 3 out of 10, I think that makes this a 2.5 out of 10. Man, the biggest countries in Europe by population sure have the worst Minecraft seeds. Okay, so now we have reached the halfway point in our judging country seeds. We can say that these are the first 4 winners of the brackets that we've done so far. Using our rating system, we can then say that logically, Sweden is a country that beats France, allowing it to progress to the quarterfinals here, while it looks as though Poland is a seed that handily beats out the United Kingdom. Using these same rankings, we can say that the best Minecraft seed using a European country from my top 8 or top 16 is Sweden, our semi-finalist. Wait, no, our finalist. But who are Sweden going to face up against for our grand final? Well, where we'll obviously be diving deeper into the seed and seeing some of the weirder quirks that you might not get from a brief overview. Well, let's find out by going into the second half of this, where we see the non-European countries faced off. Again, I cannot be clear enough about the fact that, while all of these countries are fairly close together, sharing a continent, Indonesia and Brazil almost could not be more different. The Philippines and New Zealand, or indeed Australia or India, almost couldn't be much further apart. But let's find out which of these seeds will depart into our quarterfinals right now. Yeah, it's exciting. So we are starting the non-European division of our brackets with Indonesia, which it has to be said is probably the country with the highest population that you just don't hear very much from. Hundreds of millions of people live in Indonesia, but I feel like the cultural output isn't as high as, say, India, China, or the United States. And so what is the Minecraft seed like? Well, as you can immediately see, a giant mushroom island at spawn. That's certainly something. Also, a mountain it looks like, a savannah village, and a jungle. Wow, that is quite notable. Really, really notable, actually. So if you're looking for a savannah spawn, you just need to type in Indonesia. If you want a savannah spawn with a mushroom island just about in sight, you could do that as well. And if you want your savannah village to go out into what appears to be a very thin ocean, as opposed to a river, well then this is a very intriguing Minecraft seed that might be perfect for you. Oh, look at that. 3 melons here. Plus an iron golem that seems very angry at something. No, he's just patrolling. I cannot stress how rare it is to have this, as well as this, but also this right within a accessible area of your spawn. Truly something that has to be said is incredible. But it gets even crazier because there's a second mushroom island over there too, and a giant patch of warm ocean in between. This is a really cool seed for looking for weirder things. Like, look at that. There's a cave in this mushroom island that takes you straight down to Lush Cave. Wow. Super. Wait, does that mean there's going to be an azalea on the surface here? Fascinatingly, no. I guess maybe they're not meant to spawn here. But in either case, if you're looking for a bizarre Minecraft spawn, and you want to have potential for some archaeology in the jungle, for some savannah villaging with the cherry that's a bit more generic than the other two, or you want to go into a mushroom biome that has a giant cave below it. Keep in mind, these caves will spawn mobs naturally, because they're technically not the mushroom biome, but if you want to have all of these things in one seed, or even just one of these things individually, then what's not to love about loading this up? There's straight up diamonds down here. This is insane. This is going to be a hard act to follow, but let's see what Brazil has for me to swallow. Wait, whoa! Look at this. More diamonds and a ruined portal hanging out below the mushroom biome. It's insane what you can find around these bits. By the way, not to add more pressure to Brazil, but because of the fact that Indonesia is famous for having Java, the island, but obviously, the version of Minecraft 2, I decided to check the seed on Chunkbase, and it turns out it's even better over there because you get a village closer to spawn, and just it's fun to me that it's even better on Java. But if you're not playing on Java and you're playing on Bedrock, you might support Brazil, and what would you find in exchange? Well, ooh, a little bit of a weird spawn. I'm not sure what I think of this one. You get savannah, but hilly savannah, that leads into a very tiny mountain, which I believe, without... I might have to go back on Chunkbase and check this. I would bet that this is the biome that provides the rarest type of wolf, because it looks awfully familiar. Let's check, actually. Yeah, Minecraft's rarest wolf will spawn right here. And so this is kind of the perfect size for what you're looking for. It's close enough that you can get your hands on a snowy wolf, but not large enough that you're getting bored and it's messing up your world. But also, it's in a cool enough position that, like, look around here. You see this super intense river that leads into some exposed dripstone outside of a cave. Always kind of cool to see. That leads you into this little fun place. I think that this is a unique piece of terrain for a spawn. I mean, it's not as unique as Indonesia, though, is it? Oh, but look at that. There's a pale oak forest over there. Oh, and there's a jungle temple, too. Okay, this is starting to make me wonder, are European seeds lame compared to non-European seeds? A grove biome, a savanna village, a ruined portal, jungle temple, and a pale oak garden. And we haven't even ventured that way yet, but let's see what this has to offer. Very nice. Straight into the nether, should you choose to go. Ooh, also very nice if you like smithing templates, and freebies are great for you. The bones and the rotten flesh are maybe something... with less to do. The giant rivers that separate all of these, forests are something that I feel like could be part of some interesting world design. If you burnt down all the forests, or even just some of them, and used this to make like a society that had multiple bridges. I like bridges, I think they're interesting, but if you think that this would rely on too many bridges, and you hate bridges, or even just don't want to build them, then I think that this is a world that is kind of short on building area. You can see there's a kind of flat-ish one over there. Or you could take some of this. But ultimately, I think that is the biggest weakness. It is unique, but is it as unique as Indonesia? That is kind of a value judgment question, isn't it? I think that Indonesia having the mushroom, even with the diamonds and the ruined portal below it, and I think that technically speaking, that doesn't feel quite as good as Brazil. I might have to go for a bit of an upset here. Yeah, this is the hardest decision I've had to make yet. I think you could really convince me in either direction, but I think that a better rounded seed is Brazil. But I think that the Indonesia seed is incredible in more unique ways. And so, are we going for the most unique seed, or are we going for the best seed for the things that you can do with it? And ultimately, I think I have to say that sadly, despite all the things that I love about this, I'm gonna have to say, this is like a reality TV show where they keep saying, over and over again, they keep getting your hopes up, making you think they're about to announce it, and then they say, it's not 2012 anymore, we're not interested in the mushroom biome compared to its contemporaries, the grove, the pale forest, the jungle edge, and the weird rivers and oceans that you can find. I think that, for my preference, Brazil is the slightly better seed, and so we'll make it into the next round, indeed. Also, look at all this, look at the meadow here with all of its poppies and wildflowers. You could make so much orange dye out of this, and what's not to love about that? Oh, you could even make purple dye from the blue flower. Honestly, yeah, I think that Brazil is a slightly better rounded seed, but only by a half point in this case. Speaking of a half point, let's go into the next country. The Philippines or New Zealand? Who is going to come out on top? Well, let's start with the Philippines, I guess. I should check on the spelling of the Philippines before I use it as a seed. Philippines. Oh, there's two P's. Oh. Okay. That's not where the P goes. Philippines. The Philippines, I guess. It's named after a guy called Philip, right? The Philippines is a spawn that seems very traditional, if you ask me. You spawn directly facing a forest, which has already spawned 4 wolves. You also have this lovely kind of plains that remind you of how plains used to be. It's relatively flat. They're never perfectly flat anymore because of all this crazy hilliness, but you can see that everything is relatively flat, and there's even a little bit of water, but not a ridiculous amount. You can still see the other side. But then if we look around otherwise, it's like, yeah, that's all this seed has. A little bit of water, a little bit of forest, a little bit of plains, tiny bit of beach, a little bit more forest, a little bit more water, and just over and over and over again until you go hundreds of blocks away where you find a tiger. Not so interested. Or if we go in the opposite direction, you'll see that there's actually a savanna, which is more interesting, especially when it comes to a village. But yeah, the Philippines is an archipelago made up of a bunch of different islands, and so in theory, it could just be that we're on the worst island right now, and the best islands are out there somewhere else. But so far, this does seem like it's a very limited seed. You're not going to get as much as you would anywhere else, and the benefits you do get don't outweigh the downsides. And so sadly, I'm going to have to say, it's not as bad as Germany, it's not as bad as the UK, but it certainly isn't a lot better. Unless you really want a relatively large island that is surrounded by ocean, but not really in a way that is usable or useful. I'm sad to say that the Philippines is a 3 out of 10, but will it beat New Zealand? Well, let's find out. Okay, New Zealand is also impressing from the get-go, because we've got terrain that would be perfect for spawning sheep into, and then also a ludicrous amount of it, with behind us, sadly, an ocean appearing, but in front of us, a lovely cherry grove appearing. I love a good cherry grove. There's just the color of the biome that still, you know, this is my type of Minecrafter, I guess, but there's just something about it that still feels new and wonderful, even though it's actually been a couple of years now. But, you know, boomer thoughts aside, I've got to say that it is a nice little mix of things around here. We've got a village with a ruined portal, then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 types of tree that you can see, and we've got a couple of little hills if you want to make something interesting from them. But as far as actual unique Minecraft experiences go, yeah, there's a hill that's like in a circle over here. It's filled with trees, so you'd have to do something about that. But it's nice, I guess. There's the ugliest island I think I've ever seen. It kind of looks like a fish that had a bite taken out of the middle. Or maybe like a shark that's missing its fins. If you look at that as the eye. You know, I don't like that the shark is frowning at me. And I don't like this seed. But I would have to say it's better than the Philippines. Oh! Yeah, I have to say it's better than the Philippines. But, you know, I don't think that that's a amazing accomplishment by itself. So our 13th seed is Australia, which obviously, I mean, everyone actually calls Australia over there. But if we're going to use its official, formal-ish name, this is Australia, and my god, is this a bad spawn or what? It's a forest, next to a forest, next to an ocean, which has a forest on the other side. And if you follow the forest long enough, you do find a lava pit. Okay, that's got some value. A bunch of lava and a bunch of leaf litter means you'll fuel your furnaces for days, and you'll be able to go to the nether really easily. The easiest of any seed so far, maybe even. But besides that, there's some gravel here. And if we head hundreds of blocks away, across another giant jungle edge, to be fair, just like Italy. You know, Australia, a lot in common with Italy. That's what I'm starting to learn here. But if we head across that, you will find there's some deserts and some mesas, which is actually quite handy if you have big projects to be done here. So, for example, you could take all the smelting at your home, or as it would eventually be, and you could use that to actually go through all of the sand in this desert, because when you need glass, you do need it on an industrial scale. So, actually kind of nice, right? Also having a village that you could slowly destroy the terrain off over time seems appealing to me. But, you know, maybe that's the reason why Australia exists, is my British desire to slowly change the world around me and take it back to where I'm from. But anyway, the point here is that this is a solid world spawn if you just head about 1,000 blocks away, but I don't think we can give too seriously high a rating for that. Whereas India, on the other hand, gives you a very mediocre forest spawn again, but what do you see next to yourself? A giant mountain. Wow. I might argue it's the very biggest in the world, if this was true to the real world, but you can see that it's a slightly more interesting spawn, but not necessarily in the good way. You can see there's a pillager outpost closer by, you can see there are some cherry grove trees closer by, and you can also see there's a big old mountain here, which I can't help but be curious. We do not need to check chunk base to know that there is some seriously fun activities waiting for you down here, but this seems like an incredibly hostile seed. A pillager outpost and an ancient city are the two main things to point to, unless you go all the way over or around the mountain, at which point you'll find a village, but no freebies in this village. It's just a bunch of villagers living on a straight line, which actually makes it really annoying to trade with. You have to run across the whole thing multiple times. And so what do you get in exchange for all of these downsides? Well, the tricky village is technically an upside, and multiple entrances into these mountains should provide you with some decent caving experiences. Oh, there we go. India's starting to deliver now. A mine shaft inside the cave entrance here is always such a delight when you get one of these. I love caves that have a bit of natural light to them. It really makes it feel like you're doing some real exploration. And so I like that. I like the cherry groves as well, has to be said, as well as what I assume is a regular grove. I like the mixture of what we've got here, even if it's incredibly steep and therefore tricky to traverse. Oh, I like that there's a pale garden out here in the distance. Super good stuff. But I'm gonna be honest, that is about all that I love. I think it's a fine seed when you get far enough away from spawn. And I think that it has a couple of redeeming quantities for the right player. But as far as whether this is better or Australia, I would say they're both pretty bad spawns and pretty bad seeds, but at least Australia has the massive desert view when you get far enough away from the coast. Hey, I guess just like real life. And so, as a result, it's got lots of resources and minerals for you there to make you rich if you want to be that way. Therefore, I think by a point, Australia has to clinch this round. Great job, Australia. Okay, it's time for our final first round bracket, the United States versus Canada. Thankfully, there is absolutely no beef between these countries, especially not anything that is present at current times that you wouldn't have expected there before, and so I'm excited to see what does this seed for Canada have for us. Well, if you're willing to walk up a giant set of steps to the top of a mountain, you'll find what might be the tallest village we've encountered so far. It's a village with a view, and honestly, I kind of like that. So first of all, we got a blacksmith, which is, I just think, always good, right? Who doesn't want 4 obsidian and a copper spear? Weird choice, but still. But having a village with a view like this really is one that you'll appreciate if you have a higher render distance. One of the weird things I learned from making these videos is that my render distance is higher than most people's. Unless you play on PC, you don't even get the option to have the 50 chunks that I tend to record with, which is far lower than we could be using, but for stability reasons is where I tend to top out. You know, actually, I gotta flex real quick. Here's what 99 chunks of render distance looks like. Weirdly, you can see that even though it's double as much, which actually, because of the square circle rule, means it's actually 3 times as many chunks loaded on screen right now, even though we can see 3 times as much, it doesn't actually mean 3 times as much information, because it all gets smaller and less useful. And so yeah, fun fact, 99 chunks is what you can do, just using the base game on Bedrock, and it looks beautiful. But is this seed beautiful? Okay, I'm gonna level with you here. This is not a good seed. I think if you wanted mountains, you would want taller mountains. If you wanted a village, you would want a better village in a better place. If you wanted a pale forest, this seed would have you covered, but it's a weirdly shaped and weirdly split pale forest. So it's not even perfect for like hollowing it out and using it for a atmospheric biome. Look at this, look how spooky this is, and this isn't even vibrant visuals. But yeah, as far as what to do with this seed, if you want a mildly high village, or you want a pale oak sort of near spawn, then Canada is the seed for you. Otherwise, maybe we'll have to try the United States. Okay, I've got to say immediately, it's incredibly fitting that Canada's seed was cold and mountainous, whereas the United States of America, all capitalized in that way. Honestly, America is a weird country, because culturally I feel like it's called America, but there are enough people out there that are like, it's not America, that's all of the Americas. They don't sound like this, they sound a bit more Brazilian than anything. But anyway, the important thing here is how good is the United States of America seed? Well, I think a desert spawn isn't so bad, but it does have one massive downside, which is you won't be finding any wood. You can go right to this nearby desert village, Oh, abandoned desert village. Wow, the United States of America was at one point a very prosperous village. But these days, it's filled with zombies. And not a lot else, seemingly. Huh, interesting. So, as well as that, there is a desert temple, but again, a reminder, at this point, you'll be able to, if you punch down with your fist, you'll be able to get into these chests and somehow find yourself dune armor trims, and emeralds, gold, and even copper horse armor, and even crazier than that, some gunpowder and TNT long before you ever find yourself your first wood. If you like the idea of a seed that is really rewarding and gives you super rare things, oh look, it's the trifecta again. We've got the desert well, valuable water right here, then this is the seed for you. And if you want a hardcore challenge, I love the idea of playing on this desert world and realizing that your closest wood is going to be in this pillager outpost. Are you going to be able to do it? Well, you don't need to, because you could just head over to these 2 savanna trees under this chaos right here, or you could head over to the mangrove swamp in the corner. But if you want a desert that is filled with goodies and backed up by a mesa biome, then this is a great seed for you. It's weird because I see the lack of trees as, oh, wow, amazingly, is that a second pillager outpost? Well, this is the perfect seed if you want to be shot right after spawning, and I've got to say that as a result, this is a really, really wild but interesting spawn combo, which gives you multiple desert temples before a tree. And again, I guess here we go. We've got 2 little oak trees by the spawn here, about 500 blocks away, and then also a giant ocean, which I'm going to see as a massive downside here. But to the right person, having a giant coral biome might be great for finding a coral nautilus. And so, weirdly, I don't think you can say this is the perfect Minecraft seed, but it is one of the most interesting. And so, sadly, has to be said, handily beats out the Canadian seed. This might be the biggest difference between 2 back-to-back seeds. And so, sorry, Canada. I'm probably in Canada as you watch this video. Please don't kick me out, Canadian government. You've got lots of redeeming qualities, just not your Minecraft seed. Whoa, look at this desert temple over here. It's just chilling in the water. And also, look at the size of this mangrove swamp. If you like red wood, this is the only seed we've seen so far with any amount of it, and it's a large amount too. Also, if you want to get your hands on Minecraft's best block, you know, Minecraft's best rarest structure is the desert well, and the best block is by far the muddy mangrove roots. There are so many great things you can do with this, and you can get your hands on lots of it by simply going to this mangrove swamp in the United States of America seed. So now in the worldwide division, you can see that Brazil is obviously handily going to beat out New Zealand to get itself into the semi-finals, while the United States of America does also beat out Australia, at least by this metric, meaning that we have the United States of America right next to Brazil, but by our ranking system, we would argue that they are equivalent seeds. This is something that doesn't seem like it makes perfect sense, and so rather than just saying, is one better than the other, or flipping a coin or some similar tiebreaker, I want to take a real second to go back to both. Oh, Brazil really was good, wasn't it? So was the USA too, though. So, to go for a real tiebreaker, let's take a factor we haven't been considering up until now and use it to determine which seed is better. So, if we are at spawn and we type /setblock, just like this. Oh, it's not going to work because cheats are disabled by default because Minecraft is a silly game where you can play creative, but they assume you can play creative with achievements turned off where you can change your game mode, but they assume that you don't want cheats on by default. Very, very clever. Great decision for Bedrock to make that change earlier this year and then not change it despite massive outrage. Anyway, if we type set block and then portal, we'll see what the default closest thing to the spawn is. For Brazil, it is a Crimson Forest. This is a strong spawn. Hard one to beat. And honestly, I think that it probably has won already. But if we do the same test on the United States of America, I'll actually do it from this pit of lava since it's the most likely place you're going to go into the Nether, given that it's only a few hundred blocks away. It shouldn't make a difference, but does it? Well, if you do this on the United States of America, instead of the Crimson Forest, oh yeah, you find the worst biome. Do not try to go to the Nether on the United States of America seed unless you like magma cubes. But genuinely, I think that that is a more controversial opinion than liking phantoms. Liking phantoms is, they have a redeeming quality. Magma cubes and the basalt delta, especially of this size, this never is here to punish you. And honestly, this whole seed, the best bit about it was the punishment. And so I think that using this tiebreaker method, Brazil makes it to the final. The time has now come for our final review of the best 2 seeds. Going into it, we have Brazil as the clear favourite with an 8 out of 10 ranking compared to Sweden's lowly 7. But is this simply the judging of the time? Is it simply what Brazil's been up against that makes it look so good? After all, every Minecraft seed on this list isn't a 10 out of 10. It's not one so shareable that you would make it from Finnair. But is... speaking of Finnair, that's Sweden's neighbouring country's national airline. Okay, you know, I'm an airline nerd. No one cares about that. But I care about that, and I also care about Sweden versus Brazil. Who's gonna win? Well, let's go into Sweden and remind ourselves what it has going for it. It has the incredibly funky spawn. It has the villages, which are fairly unique and found just on the other side of this mountain. Unlike the much wonkier, random set of trees in a mountainside, this is actually something you could work with and imagine yourself living in. This is a world that could be perfect to build yourself on top of, and it's got so many delightful pieces of terrain in different directions if you would like to sustain. And going even better, if you were to go into the Nether at spawn, well, you might find something we've not seen yet. I actually don't know what it is. This is me speculating that it's something worth seeing. That's right, it's a cave. Okay. Somehow this is the one nether spawn that can absolutely destroy Brazil. It is the Crimson Forest, very craveable, right next to a warp forest. Warp forests are not just a great source of twisted roots. These are incredible. Being able to fall on those is great. It's not just a source of blue wood, very highly sought after, but also it's a great way to get ender pearls, which as we all know is oh too essential when trying to beat Minecraft. Having these 2 forests, having both of them be right next to each other and actually sharing a lot of border is an incredible spawn. Oh, and even better, it leads you right into a bastion. This is a seed that gets really, really good. But, you know, just for fun, if we've gone into the Nether, for this final show-off, we should also go into the end. Oh, it's a weird one! The pillars are poking out through the rest of this, and the portal is up on a bit of a hill. That actually does make the dragon harder to fight, because when you're over here, you can't stand off the portal without standing down here. But it means that her acid breath, you can kind of like fight her from underneath here, if you want to be a bit silly. The Brazilian seed is one that really strikes my interest for how to start a new Minecraft world. You get access to the Grove, which is an interesting biome by itself, but spawns one of the rarest mounts that you can have. Not mounts, one of the rarest pets you can have. Please do not mount your wolves. But also you can see that there is access to villages, ruin portals with obsidian, and all sorts of other goodies. Well, ultimately, I think this seed represents what you can get that is kind of intangible. Although you could argue that like, oh yeah, this seed is so great because it gave me 3 diamonds in a chest, I would be much more strongly arguing the case that a seed is great because it gives you a bunch of dye to make a big project you want, or it gives you a really interesting biome that you could chop down and make into an interesting part of your world. This is a world seed that seems like it has a lot of potential, at least in the overworld. Meanwhile, the Nether is this absolutely delightful Crimson Forest. However, if you're looking for the nearest fortress, let's just say you'll be walking a while. Seriously, if you were to do this without hints or spoilers, whatever you want to call it, if you were to do this just off the back of the game, you might assume that Minecraft has forgotten how to place structures. This is a problem and means that you'll have a beautiful biome, but how many other biomes are you going to have to walk through to go anywhere? Also, if we check out the end, I mean, it could be better than the Swedish one, but it's an end box end, as I have called it before, meaning you spawn inside of a cube, which is a type of safety end, but I find it claustrophobic, and then you also get some towers which are poking the littlest bit over, kind of fun to see, but nowhere near as fun as the Swedish end, a bit more stable and predictable, I guess you could say. If I'm being honest, there is a lot to love about all of the seeds we've seen today. Well, that's a lie. There's a lot to love about both of our finalist seeds, and ultimately, I think that they both do have different pros and cons for different people. But this isn't about trying to reconcile. This is about a tournament format. Which country has the best Minecraft seed? And to give you the answer to that, I've placed one of these two banners into this chest. The banner in this chest is the winner of the overall result. And so, who is it that has the very best seed? The answer might shock you, because it is the Swedes! That's right, Sweden, fittingly, after developing the game, has the best Minecraft seed. Some have argued that this was rigged by the Minecraft developers themselves to make their country seem better than it is. Others would argue the Swedish Minecraft seed is simply the most interesting one of all polled, and others yet would argue, ultimately, would you really use any of these seeds in your world? That's the question I want to leave you with, because I liked a few of these seeds for being very, very interesting, but would I find myself using any again? Unlike the single letter seeds, the R's and the X's of the world, I don't know that any of these, besides Sweden or the United States, are ones that I would reliably come back to. I mean, the Swedish end fight does seem like it would be fun, but that is all for this one. I hope you all enjoyed this special edition of Seed Sunday. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe, because I'll see you all in the next one. Okay. Goodbye. I'm Swedish now.